Greetings, folks, and welcome to today's show. About 3 months ago, we had Judd Matheny on the show to talk about what the legislature was going to be addressing during the coming term, and that term has now ended. So we've invited him back, and we'll talk some about what they got done. So, Judd, thanks for taking time to join us.
I'm glad to be here, Tom. 3 months went by pretty quick.
Yeah, one
at least in my mind.
One thing that's puzzled me a little bit, there seems to have been a push on to shorten the term, and you did it this time. You cut a couple of weeks off of it, I guess, didn't you?
About a month, actually.
A month.
Normally, we get out sometime between the 17th and the 20th of May. This year, 19th of April, and we weren't sure we were going to be able to do that until around the 1st of April, and then things started shaping up. But we put a lot of effort into the very beginning of session, where normally we put a whole lot into the very end, and it worked out well. And it was a change of pace for everybody, and took some getting used to for other folks. But I think overall it was very good conditioning for the General Assembly.
And you're doing that. You were pushing that. Why?
Primarily just to get out a little bit earlier. I mean, when we have that entire machine mobilized for the amount of months that we have it mobilized, and I mean all 132 legislators are up there, all the staff members are up there, plus the extra staff we bring on for session, all the support staff, bringing over all the commissioners and other government agencies at the Capitol every day. One day is about $12,000 to $15,000 for the taxpayers. So of course, if we can cut off 30 days, that's about $500,000 in savings, as long as we can still get our business done. And that was our initial question, was are we going to short circuit some of the process to get our business done and possibly pass some bills that have not been properly vetted? And that remains to be seen. In my 11 years up there, we have had to go back the following year and fix some unintended consequences. And when we do things,
I was wondering, if pressuring it that much was really giving everybody the time to discuss and understand what it is you're.
Well, it doesn't under the old way of thinking, which is let's do our research and our diligence during the committee system while the committee system's in progress. What this new method is
that's during the term itself.
Yes, sir. Now it's going to be incumbent upon the legislator to do more homework prior to the session and be more prepared when the bill comes forward. And it's the same to the various government agencies and the governor and anybody else that's bringing legislation forward. They're going to have more of their homework done ahead of time, because there's going to be less time to do that due diligence once we're in session. And I think the second half of this 108th General Assembly is going to be a little smoother than the first half was. But we kind of ended on a tough note too, and we'll talk about that.
Yeah, I remember it being a little discussion about whether you were ready to close or not.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's take a short commercial break, folks, and we'll go some more.
The highest standard of trust offers a sense of safety and comfort. It's established over time. You know when you see it. You know when you feel it. There's a standard of trust in healthcare. It's the Joint Commission Gold Seal of Approval. In 2003, Life Care Center of Tullahoma voluntarily achieved this accreditation and maintains it still today. Life Care, meeting a higher standard, because residents matter most.
Let the Smokehouse be your mountain getaway destination in beautiful Monteagle, Tennessee. Enjoy our cabins, restaurant, and old general store. Shop thesmokehouse.com, featuring homemade barbecue sauces, jellies, and many other fine Tennessee products. Our live Music on the Mountain series features some of the best local and Nashville talent every Friday and Saturday night, 6:30 p.m. No cover, kids welcome.
We're back, folks, and we're talking today with Representative Judd Matheny, who is our man in the state legislature, and we want to talk some about what they've been doing this term, which just ended a week or so ago. So, Judd, let's talk some about what actually got accomplished. You got a workers' comp bill passed.
Yes, sir. Several flagship issues. We'll start with workers' compensation reform, and it just basically it was one of the governor's flagship pieces of legislation this year, and it sought to instills some additional parodies within the workers' comp process, mostly on the administrative law review side. And we just wanted to make sure that if an employee has a workers' comp injury, that the employer has an ability to put on proof also as to whether or not they think that job was 100% work-related, or perhaps there were some pre-existing conditions, or maybe there were some extracurricular activities that also contribute to it. So that type of proof now can be brought into a hearing. But primarily it takes a lot of the cases out of the circuit court system, puts them into the administrative law review system within the Department of Labor and Workforce Development.
Yeah,
and
okay.
The idea is to streamline the entire process and to put more predictability, not only for the injured employer on what their benefits are and how long they'll be able to obtain them, but also on the employer as to what their payouts are going to be over the lifetime of an injury.
Yeah, okay. And you got something on annexation. Well, that got sort of fixed, but you're going to have to come back to it.
The whole annexation issue is by no means done yet. We passed a bill finally that in the long and the short of it, it puts a moratorium on statewide residential annexes until early 2015. Any annexation for industrial purposes, economic development purposes, or some government use purposes will still be allowed to go through if they're already in the process of moving forward. And if a new economic initiative comes up that a city or needs to take, they'll still be able to do that without any problem. But what we wanted to do, we had seen, now locally, I don't see this problem coming. I think we've seen it in the past in some parts of the district, but right now I don't see the same problem that much of the state is saying they have, which is cities expanding very quickly into residential areas out into the county and not being able to provide the services in the time that they promised to provide those services. So we have a lot of people, residents, that are gun shy about being annexed by a city, not being sure that they're going to be able to receive the city benefits, and they're having to pay the taxes. So basically we want to put some rules in place, and I'm going to speak loosely here, but what we're intending to do is have something to the effect that if a city annexes a community and within 5 years they can't fully provide all the services that they promised to, that annexation could be null and void. But because we have so many different annexation projects in so many different areas, and many that have never been completed from the city standpoint, we wanted to put a moratorium on it, catch up, and then move forward again. But it's still totally possible to annex residential areas now. It just takes a majority vote of the county commission in order for the city to go into the county and take more land.
But there was some talk about requiring the people who were, giving the people who were being annexed a vote.
Some representation, right, and we're doing that, and we don't know what that's going to do at the end of the day, but right now, the vote will go through the county commission instead of through the city. So you will have a county commissioner that can help you exercise your rights in the annexation hearing until some permanent rules are put in place. And of course, it's the Tennessee Municipal League, the agency that sort of oversees a lot of the technical aspects for cities and helps them with a lot of government issues, is very opposed to it, and many cities are opposed to it, but most of the legislators are in favor of it.
Well, yeah, I mean, whether it's the individuals themselves or whether they're a commissioner, I don't recall ever hearing of a situation where the folks being annexed were happy.
That's right. Well, we want those people.
They don't ever ask for it.
We want those folks to have a voice in the process now, prior to being annexed, not after they're annexed and they have an alderman, but prior to being annexed, we want them also to have a strong voice, and that's the impetus behind the legislation. Well, but it's not to stop any economic development projects at all.
You're putting a sizable block, I think, in the annexation business.
I think so.
Well, guns. You got guns in the parking lot pass through,
and just a bit like we predicted on this show, we did it early and got it out of the way, and I was glad for that, because it creates a lot of interference when we don't get that issue settled very quickly, and it really does, and it just detracts from other issues.
Well, sure.
It's used as a bargaining chip for other issues. But yes, effective July 1, 2014, a permit holder in the state of Tennessee will be able to carry their firearm and to park in any parking lot in the state, even if it's posted "No weapons allowed," As long as they're a permit holder, they're going to be immune from criminal prosecution simply by the possession of that weapon in the vehicle. And this includes school grounds, which you've always been able to have one in your car when you pick up your child or drop your child off, but now you'll be able to have a vehicle parked and a weapon locked up. Same on higher education. And we did, and this was the one rubbing point with the bill. We understand that businesses feel like some of their property rights are being usurped by the legislature with this bill. We still allow the businesses to post and put in their handbook that it's against company policy to have a weapon. However, and they can fire someone for having a weapon in violation of their company policy, but there are no criminal prosecutions that can follow it. And we have the business community's assurance that there'll be no witch hunts for permit holders in their parking lots. And we warned the business community, and I'm talking the Tennessee Chamber, the various huge parent companies in this state, Nissan and others, that if we see abuses from large employers doing random searches or doing total searches and we think it's for guns, we're going to come back and maybe even protect handgun owners more in the future. Businesses have assured us that employees are too hard to find, and that's the last thing on their radar, and I believe that.
Okay. Well, you know, because of the occasional terrorism things we go through, we have really spent an awful lot of energy nationally on the guns issue. I noticed the other day, kind of interesting, that 2012 we had twice as many people holding gun permits as we had in 2008.
Yes,
so
sir. And
we're stirring up a lot of interest. I'm not sure what the objective is, but
well, I think it's a myriad of things. Many people are becoming more aware of their surroundings, and perhaps that it is easy to become a victim in the right circumstances, and it is difficult for police to be everywhere all the time. And if they have the ability to train themselves and possess a weapon, then many people are choosing to do that. Also, just the simple fact that the federal government has threatened so much gun control. I know in Tennessee you're seeing a lot of citizens just stand up and say, I'm going to do my part to show that I'm a responsible gun owner and don't like what the federal government's doing. And I think this is evidenced by the 60,000+ new permits that we've gotten in just the 5 months in Tennessee alone. It's incredible. We're approaching 600,000. That's 10% of the population is permit holder now, state of Tennessee.
incredible.
It's incredibly bad for a bad guy, because if I'm a bad guy, I'm going to know that 1 out of 4 adults is carrying a pistol where I'm going.
Well, we've already been, we've nationally, I'm not sure about Tennessee specifically, but there's been some decrease in crimes going on.
There have in states and cities that have permissive gun control issues or permissive gun issues. You go to your big cities where they're continuing to clamp down on gun control, the murder rate is very high in most cases.
So there's as far as you're concerned, there's a correlation between the number of permit holders and the crime rate.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Interesting. Okay. Let's see. Anything else that passed that you want to mention?
Well, we can talk about what didn't pass, which is just as important.
Yeah, I was going to do that next.
We'll do that next.
Yeah.
That'll be charter schools, judicial redistricting issues we'll talk about. Of course, the budget. I don't know if you have that line item. We passed what I consider to be a pretty strong budget this year, $32.8 billion. It's less than a % increase over last year's budget. We cut taxes in many categories. We reduced the sales tax on food once again, another 1/4%. We went into the next phase of elimination of our death tax for a total repeal by 2016. We increased exemptions for our hall income tax for both single and joint filers over age 65. So all these things take revenue away from the state, but our economy's been doing so well for about the past 24 months that we've been able to reduce these taxes, and
the revenue's holding up.
Yes, sir, and we doubled down on our rainy day fund and put twice as much in it this year as constitutionally mandated to do, and as a result, we're sitting on about $800 million in cash in our rainy day fund and our 10-care reserves, which keeps our bond rating extraordinarily high.
Yeah, very good. Okay. Let's take a short commercial break, folks, and we'll come back and find out what they didn't get done.
modern world. I can live just fine out here without the road rage and boy bands. Of course, I might miss my Charter HD with football on ESPN and Walking Dead on AMC. ESPN and AMC. And, well, Shark Week on Discovery HD. But that's all. AMC, ESPN, Discovery, TBS, and Comedy Central HD. But that's it. Except for HBO HD.
Charter now has over 100 HD channels and more brilliant HD shows on demand than ever.
We're back, folks, and we're talking today with Representative Judd Matheny, and we've talked some about what the legislature got accomplished this time, and so there were some things I'm sure that there was a great deal of interest in that didn't quite get done, so let's spend a little time talking about that. Well, and some of these, we're happy to see go away. Judicial restricting, for example.
Yes, sir.
Just nothing passed there, right?
Nothing did, and it was a sort of a sleeper issue for most of the legislators until about the last 48 hours of session. And there were about 4 of us in the House that were really going to get hit hard, and another 6 or 7 House members that were going to take a semi-beating, and about 30 that were going to have an improved situation by the judicial redistricting. But at the end of the day, we in the House felt that the plan did not have enough participation by the House. And we're the body that's closest to the electorate. We're the body that's closest to our DAs and our public defenders and our court systems every day. And the preparation for a redistricting had not been done properly. There had not been any case studies. We had a 2009 comptroller study that said judicial redistricting was not necessary. And once we were able to encourage our colleagues in the House to put the brakes on for these various reasons, then we began to turn the tide on the vote count. Last day we were able to beat the bill. We had no idea right up until about 2 minutes before the vote that we were going to be successful, and we were much more successful than we thought we'd be. And apparently our argument resonated with our colleagues that the House is an independent body and we have just as much right as the Senate, with all due respect, to properly vet these issues and look at them.
Was introduced in the Senate.
Yes,
well, you think that one's dead for the foreseeable future? You don't expect it to resurrect next term, for example?
I do not at this time. I think we'll still move forward with a major case study in January, which I think is a prudent first step to any redistricting.
Yeah.
My hope is that it's another 8 years before we redistrict judicially, and in about 6 years we have the districts defined, and we have the folks that are going to participate in those elections are going to be impacted by those changes, have plenty of adequate notice
to get prepared.
Yes, sir. And,
okay.
and the court systems can prepare for those changes also. Instead of it all happening in 4 months, they can have a couple of years to do it. So that's going to be my push, is to put it off another 8 years.
Okay, and you've and the wine in the grocery stores issue, which keeps bouncing around year
after year. It does, and I was a bit surprised by its defeat this year, I'll be honest with you. I know it's been bubbling at the surface for the decade plus that I've been up in Nashville, but I really thought this year could have been the year that we passed a wine and grocery stores bill. It did not materialize in one of the committees. A couple of folks changed their mind, which they have the prerogative to do, and just simply killed the bill. I think it will come. My only hope and my only one requirement whenever I can have a say-so up there in this bill is that we level the playing field for all entities involved. That if a liquor store is going to lose roughly 30% of their business perhaps, or share it with grocery stores, they need to be able to sell grocery and convenience items also at liquor stores.
Okay.
So if a liquor store wants to sell a gallon of milk and a loaf of bread and a pack of chewing gum and a corkscrew, they should be able to do it just as well as a grocery store should be able to sell.
Okay, well, that's an interesting balance. charter schools, there was an effort to set up some kind of an appeal board that if a charter got turned down, you could move it up to the appeal board. That didn't go either, right?
It did not go, and that was a casualty of the redistricting. That bill was held hostage by the state Senate until we passed the redistricting bill. It was basically held over the head of the House as a you could say carrot and a stick. I might just say a 2x4. And we had a long meeting with the Speaker of the House, and that charter school reauthorization bill was her big issue. And she fully well knew the pressures we were under in redistricting, and she was fine with us fighting the Senate on redistricting, knowing that her charter school bill could also become a casualty. The Lieutenant Governor threatened that bill not to pass if the judicial districting didn't pass, and that's his prerogative to do that, and we decided to have a Mexican stare down over it. We defeated the redistricting, and they did not pass the charter school reauthorization bill.
Okay. The voucher thing, which is always a big deal too. I got lost in there somewhere. Do we actually have at least a pilot program?
No, sir, we do not, and we got very close to one, and it was another flagship bill of the governor's, and it would have kept us at 5,000 students statewide in the pilot project for at least the first year. Almost exclusively, those schools were going to be in our the most underperforming schools in our poorest neighborhoods and our most urban districts. There was an attempt by the Senate once again to take that plan and make it statewide. And the governor thought, and I think rightly so, that that's too big of a step for the inception of a charter school to be statewide when where we need to be hyper-focused on it right now, if we're going to do it, is on our worst performing schools. There is a very valid argument, though, that I subscribe to also, that everybody needs an opportunity to be able to take advantage of the charter schools. And that is the rub that we hit with the argument that, the Senate Education Committee decided that they were going to basically take the bill in its current form, amend it to be a statewide program instead of being hyper-focused just on the more urban areas and underperforming schools. The governor didn't feel like the state was ready to take that big a step, that perhaps we'd have some major unintended consequences, and rather than risk that, he just pulled the entire proposal.
Okay. You expect that one to be coming back, huh?
Absolutely, yes, sir.
And something I forgot whether you mentioned it or somebody, and I wasn't even aware this was on the table. Something about what do they call it?
Fracking.
Fracking with in the natural gas.
Fracking in the natural gas industry, which is May the 22nd. Actually, a committee that I chair is going to hear some proposed state rules on fracking that have been promulgated through members of the industry, environmental compliance folks, and but the state is going to try to position itself to begin doing more fracking in a safe way, so that we can identify and start isolating some of our natural gas.
Well, give me some sense of the quantification here. You know, we don't normally think of Tennessee as being a big oil and gas state.
Tennessee is a huge natural gas state. We have hundreds of years worth of natural gas under our feet in Tennessee. We have one of the most sophisticated pipeline delivery systems in Tennessee of any state in the union. Part of that, once again, is due to our geographic location. 8 border states, many intersect around us. Tennessee is a wonderful state to encourage the use of natural gas in fleet vehicles and on commuting vehicles. Like I said, we already have the delivery and infrastructure here. We lack some storage space, and we lack a delivery system into the commercial market. I've carried bills for the Natural Gas Association for 3 years now to begin slowly breaking down the barriers for the use of natural gas as a commercial road fuel. And we've done things such as taking away the bond requirement to own one of the vehicles. We've taken away liability requirements that have been placed on businesses that have natural gas refueling stations, so that a private citizen could go on their lot and refuel at roughly half price, which I think natural gas today, 1st of May, we're looking at around $1.80 a gallon, with about 10% additional fuel economy and about 30% less wear and tear on an engine than traditional petroleum fuels.
And cheaper.
And cheaper, absolutely much cheaper, and domestic. Create a lot of jobs and create a lot of national security here. It's estimated there's about 500 years worth of natural gas at our at the current consumption rate of normal fossil fuels in our country today, and it is difficult to compress it and put it into vehicles in a timely manner. Those technologies are out there, however, and they're quite expensive. Another bill that I passed puts tax incentives in place for refueling stations, takes some of the money away from the old biodiesel fund that we used to have and puts it into an incentive fund for natural gas vehicles. And then next year I fully intend to bring back some additional bills to help with natural gas exploration and obtainment in Tennessee, and supporting the responsible use of fracking is going to be one of those.
Okay. Well, with that, folks, guess what? We've run out of time, as we frequently do. And I'm sorry about that. I wanted to spend some time on education, which we didn't have. So let's take a break and we'll wind up.
Mark, you've won just about everything there is to win in racing. What's next?
I'd like more people to know about ER Extra.
The emergency room at Harton Regional Medical Center?
I just want them to get the best care they can get.
That just gets me right here, Mark.
Maybe you'd like to pay them a visit.
ER Extra at Harton Regional Medical Center.
ER Extra. Extra fast, extra easy, extra great.
Get your news first, fast, and free with your news leader on 6 every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday nights at 6, 8, and 10 p.m. Local weather, sports, community calendar events, and a comprehensive look at the latest news stories and news makers as only a video news broadcast can do. Get it first, fast, and free with News Leader on Channel 6, your local information network.
We're back, folks. We've been talking today with Representative Judd Matheny, and we've talked some about what they got done and what they didn't get done. And Judd, there must be something of particular interest there that you'd like to talk directly to the folks about.
There is. I'd like to mention another reason to be proud of your state is that we've created a new committee this year in both the House and the Senate. It's called the Joint Legislative Advisory Committee, and I formed the committee and did it with the blessings of both speakers, and it's the first in the nation. And what we do is we look at the relationship of our state government to our federal government, and any issue that we think on the surface violates the 10th Amendment, which is our Bill of Rights, or violates the rights and privileges of our individual citizens, that we want to examine that issue, whether it's a issue that is being implemented through executive order or some type of federal rule or legislation, whether it's passed or it's pending, and we just want to look at that. We want to have experts come in from the various fields and discuss whether or not the federal government's overstepping its bounds, and then we want to issue our findings to all members of the General Assembly, the Governor's Office, the citizens of Tennessee, and our federal delegation.
Well, if you could get the rest of the country to join in that debate.
Well, my goal is to get 30. If we can get 34 states to do it, then we have some real horsepower as states' rights. And I am happy to say we formed the committee about 4 weeks ago, and it did get some national attention, and Oklahoma just formed the second one in the union on Monday. And so I've been in touch with the Oklahoma Speaker, and we're going to be working together, and Utah is quick to follow suit. They're in the process of putting one together now. And it's an exciting time, and it's an exciting subject.
Most of these are going to be red states, aren't they? Well,
probably.
Judd, thanks for taking time to join us.
Thank you.
It's always informative as usual, and thank you folks for inviting us into your parlor, and we will see you next time.